Association is an everyday occurrence in a war on drugs that squanders lives and ravages families. My next guest, Tony Papa, is no exception. Caught up in a $500 drug deal, Tony Papa spent 12 hard years in prison until his jailhouse art caught the eye of the then New York Governor George Pataki, now New York Governor George Pataki. Already an accomplished artist and activist, he joins us now with his new book, 15 Years to Life, How I Painted My Way to Freedom. And with Tony, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Andrew Cuomo, a powerful ally in the fight against New York's Rockefeller drug laws. Welcome to you both. Tony, great to see you again. You and I have had a chance to meet on this issue before. I'm going to real briefly, you owned a radio biz, a bowling buddy said, I'll give you $500 to carry an envelope. It had 4.5 ounces of cocaine, and all of a sudden you're doing serious time. Were you a drug addict?
No, I wasn't.
Were you a drug dealer?
No, I wasn't.
At the time? Did you know what was in the envelope?
I knew eventually what was in the envelope, yes.
Okay. What did you think when the judge says you're going away for a long time for this?
Well, then the realization hit me. My knees buckled. I almost fainted. I was going to do 15 years hard time for first-time nonviolent offense.
No record. You didn't have a record.
No record at all. No record at all. So these laws are draconian in nature, and my book is a clarion call for repeal actually of the Rockefeller drug laws, and actually we face this issue across the United States at the federal level also. It's a wake-up call. It actually is a book, a memoir that tells what I went through, my 12 years of hard time at Sing Sing Correctional Facility.
Sing Sing?
Well, actually it's called Swing Swing because that's the name of the chapter. Everything went on there, vice. It was an unbelievable cesspool. What I went, it was ugly.
Now, tell me how you were able to paint, because you weren't given sort of canvas and paints and stuff to work with.
Well, I actually worked with a lot of pillowcases, sheets, you know, would put acrylic paint on them. Basically all the art supplies I got was considered contraband. 95% of the materials in any art catalog, no wood, no metal, no turpentine, everything they thought I could make as a weapon. So it was like a platonic state at the prison where it wasn't good for an artist to strive. Yet I did. I grew. I transcended the negativity of imprisonment.
Got a lot of degrees?
Got 3 degrees. I actually got a master's degree from New York Theological Seminary. But my art was the way I got out of prison.
You would have done day for day for day for day if somebody hadn't seen a painting and said, gee.
15 years I would have done. I got out in 12. I got Clemency by Pataki. Actually, this painting, the self-portrait that's on the cover of the piece, one night in my cell after 3 years, I looked in the mirror. I saw an individual who was going to spend the most productive years of his life in a cage. Picked up a canvas, made a painting, 15 to life. It was exhibited at the Whitney Museum 7 years later, and through Andrew Cuomo and Larry Goldfarb, they got me the Whitney Museum of American Art Monday.
Let me bring Andrew in, because this is wrong that it's happenstance. You know, the certain case goes to the Innocence Project, and somebody gets out from death row based on DNA. Accidents by mistakes, not deliberate. What's going on with the Rockefeller drug laws?
Well, Catherine, I think we've talked about this for years now, but Tony's story really brings it to life. And it's a larger question. What should our policy be for drug offenders, nonviolent drug offenders, people who get tied up and make a mistake? Tony doesn't say... Nonviolent drug offenders. Tony doesn't say he didn't commit a crime. He says, I did commit a crime. But the punishment doesn't fit the crime. And we came up with these laws here in New York 30 years ago under Governor Rockefeller, the Governor Rockefeller laws. They were an overreaction at the time. People were afraid of heroin. And they came up with the harshest laws in the nation. And the thought was, well, if you scare people with prison, they'll stop drug use. We've learned now over 31 years that doesn't work. And the laws haven't changed to fit the time. All we're asking is, look at these laws in New York, which are the worst, but think about it nationwide. If you're trying to stop drug use, if you're trying to stop low-level offenders who get caught up in this, should you really send them away for 15 to life?
And be selfish just a moment. What would it cost to keep Tony locked up for 15 years?
Tony Papa did 12 years, by the way. You think of the human cost. You had this talent in a cage when it should have been
$30,000 a year, maybe?
I bet you it cost $500,000 to keep Tony Papa in jail for 12 years. And for what? And for what? If the judges had the discretion, which they don't now in New York, it has to be mandatory minimum, 15 to life. But if a judge had discretion who could actually look at the circumstances at the time and make a determination.
Let the punishment fit the crime,
That's right.
possibly?
And send a person to treatment, which, by the way, is 15 times more effective and about half the cost, you'd have a totally different system and a more effective system.
Yeah, a lot of judges, and Judge Mark's somebody that
Right.
we know who has worked very, very hard for all of this. A lot of judges are saying, please, give us back sentencing authority.
Yeah, well, the way the laws are geared, they take the discretion of the judges to look at the totality of facts. The judge in my case, Carmine Marasco, Westchester Court, didn't want to sentence me to 15 years to life, but he was handcuffed. He had to sentence me to those laws. So this memoir is a perfect example about what the reality is of going to prison, and I hope people read it. It's available on Amazon. You can see it on my website, 15tolife.com, and I hope it promotes change in this.
Well, you know, I will keep talking about it, and
I appreciate that.
it's just fabulous, fabulous. Great to see you again, and Andrew,
Thanks
keep
so
up
much.
the wonderful work.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Andrew Cuomo, Tony Papa. Now, coming up next is Curtis Lee.